Kia ora koutou, kei Christchurch City Council taku mahi, hei kaitiaki pūrangara hou kei Te Information Management, kei Otatahi toku kaianga, ko Annabel Armstrong toku ingoa.
Kia ora koutou, kei Christchurch City Council taku mahi, he kaitiaki pūranga aho, kei Te Tima Information Management, kei Otatahi toku kainga, ko Sarah Testa toku ingoa, no reira, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora, I'm Annabel Armstrong-Clarke and I'm the archivist for Christchurch City Council.
Seems like a lot, doesn't it? And I'm Sarah Testa, I'm Assistant Archivist at Christchurch City Council.
And we are very happy to be here to be speaking with you today. Sorry, we are a wee bit low tech. We have our piece of paper right here. We're very happy to be here today to speak about the Otatahi Christchurch Central City Living History Walk. But to talk about the walk, how we came up with the walking tour, we really need just to spend a minute to talk about the context of the Christchurch City Council Archives collection as a whole. It's had a sadly checkered past, our collection. So some of you will remember that major 1989 amalgamation. Some of you will be far too young, but up until that major amalgamation, the custody and care of the records and archives that now makes up our collection, they were held either by those pre-amalgamated authorities or in a variety of storage facilities and other collections such as Canterbury Museum and Christchurch City Libraries. But after amalgamation in 1989, around 1990, all of these separate collections of archives came together and they all went to Archives New Zealand as one Christchurch City Council Archives collection. But in 2005, that relationship between our council and Archives New Zealand began to wind up. The archives then began to transfer to Recall, which is the document storage service provider, lots of you will remember. The role of an archivist was finally established in 2007, that was me. And by 2009, that collection was completely back under council control. But I left the council in 2010 to go overseas, and then the other archivist left in 2014, and she was never replaced. So we had this really long period, 8 years with no archivist. So just to summarise that, this poor collections had this history of broken custody, hasn't been actually held by our council for very long, it's had very little support, including the loss of dedicated staff, which has led to really low visibility and really low engagement with customers, both internal and external, who just haven't had any awareness of the collection. Most people haven't even really known it existed. The collection's also located outside of the central city. We're now at the Iron Mountain facility, which was previously Recall. This is me here in the collection. It's really close to the airport. So the collection's nowhere near the central city. So we have not only low visibility, but we also have low accessibility for both our colleagues, internal colleagues, and for the general public. So I came back into the country and into the role in 2022, and from then on, we've been really keen to promote the collection as widely as possible and to increase engagement with the collection and with our services. Have you got the clicky thing? Oh, you do. So one of the first projects that I began in 2022 was to use part of our very limited budget to digitise some of our most frail and vulnerable archives, which the public won't be able to physically access just because of the sheer state of them. And these include items from those very early days when the council was first established. And I'm now just going to give you a little bit of context about the history of the council, so bear with me. So the council was established in 1862, which was only 12 years since the first wave of 800 European settlers arrived on those first 4 ships in 1850. And at this point, there was very little infrastructure in the city, which you can really see. This is early Armour Street. For those of you who know Christchurch, this is looking down Armour Street, there's Riccarton Bush at the end there. So you can see there's no metal roads, there's no footpaths, there's the very beginning of drainage and culverts and things, but there's no sewage and there's no stormwater drains in place. It was seen as a very unhealthy city, and we had this incredibly high death rate from waterborne diseases, partly exacerbated by this really low-lying swampy water, and sometimes we were the unhealthiest city in New Zealand. So some of the first items that we digitised were the reports of a chap called the Inspector of Nuisance and the reports of the sanitary commissions from the 1860s to the 1870s, and this is the reports, what they look like now. So these reports were not very well known, they're hardly ever referred to, but these reports paint this really fascinating, vivid picture of life in that early city, a city literally being built out of a swamp. And they really illustrated just how hard life was during those early days of European settlement. You can almost smell what the city must have been like from those early reports. So we know that the word nuisance doesn't really seem quite strong enough in the language of today, but the word is still used in the Health Act 1956, still covers all your fun topics like your stagnant water and your cesspools, your drains, vermins, rubbish, overcrowding and animals. So all sorts of fun things that are injurious to public health, and you can kind of imagine that that man in the 1860s was a very busy man. So these reports provide this insight into the history of the city. This is now Victoria Square, again for those of you who know Christchurch, and it really shows the lack of drainage, it really shows how swampy it was, and it kind of gives you an idea of some of the conditions the man was dealing with. So they provide this insight into the history of the city that we didn't think most people knew. And we wanted to find a way to share that story of our early city, and the same way, use it as a chance to promote our collections. We were also really keen to promote other parts of our collection that we are digitising with the help of our colleagues at Christchurch City Libraries, and we've got Amanda here from digital content team of libraries with us today, such as our bridge plans. So don't panic, the walk doesn't just focus on sewage and typhoid epidemics. So one of the first ways we began to highlight these archives was through a guided local history walk, which we ran during Christchurch Heritage Festival in 2023, where I partnered with the local history librarian, Alison Rogers from Tauranga, our Christchurch City Library Central Library, and Alison and I took groups of people around the route with iPads to show them what certain sites looked like in the early days, using photographs and digitised archives from our collection, but also from the library's collection, and really sharing stories of the early city with them, including stories of pre-European settlement. And this is standing at the Bridge of Remembrance. This is what was used to be known as the Strip, now is known as the Terrace post-earthquake, and this is what it looked like in 1868. And so we would be standing there with the iPad showing them and comparing notes. So that tour was really successful. And we got really positive feedback, wonderful conversations, but it was very clumsy, as you can imagine. We were limited to small group sizes of 15 people, just so we could keep everybody together, get them safely crossing the road, make sure people could hear us with the wind. We had to contend with weather. We had, of course, tech issues with the iPads. But because it was really successful and people were really engaged with those stories that they hadn't really known before, we wanted to try and find another way to make the content more available to a wider audience. We'd also been really inspired by the self-guided walking tour app that was being used by Selwyn District Council, and Michelle from that team is here today. So with that idea in mind, and with our other wonderful archivist, Sarah Tester, now on board, we began to look at options.
Go for it. So yeah, straight away we knew that with such a limited budget that we weren't going to be able to purchase a product, and we weren't going to receive any project funding. So we knew that that was completely not going to be an option for us. So we knew that everything we were going to do was going to have to be done with the tools and resources that we already had access to. So basically, Annabel and I began networking. So we firstly reconnected with our colleagues at Christchurch City Libraries, because they were our main partners, just to make sure that they could be part of the next phase of our project as well. We then set out about building connections with those people across council who we thought might be able to support us. So we got together members of the council's heritage team, a community development advisor for the central city, and members of the Smart Christchurch team, and they work on innovative projects right the way across the city. We all sat in a room together, we shared our vision for the project, and there was a huge amount of enthusiasm in the room, and discussion around storytelling, the value of place-based engagement, all the words that people say when they're really enthusiastic, but actually nobody had any funding or a platform or anything at all to host any sort of content for that interactive digital tour that we had in mind. So really, at that point, we were no closer to developing anything at all. I then started looking at open source products online, so free to use, and there are some of them that are out there, but they do have fairly limited functionality, so they didn't quite offer everything that we wanted. I then wondered whether the Christchurch City Council GIS Spatial team, who actually sit next to us in offices, which is helpful, whether they knew of or had access to a tool that would be easy to use and host a walking tour. And we were really thrilled and excited when they actually, surprisingly, turned around to us and said that, yes, they do have something we could use, and it was a total game changer for us. So at Council, we have access to a suite of ESRI mapping tools. And one of those is StoryMaps. Now, I don't know if any of you have come across this before. Probably some of you have. A lot of councils have access to an ESRI suite of tools. So StoryMaps is an amazing tool that enables you to visually tell a story either as a route or as a series of points across a map. And neither Annabel and I are particularly techie people, so we can definitely say that it's very easy to use. Both to host, to set up, and also for users to access as well. So it worked really well for us. So we could get started with really minimal training, which was exactly what we needed. So we began by plotting the points across that already planned route and adding the existing text and associated images that Annabel had already used on that physical tour when she'd wandered around with that iPad. We actually thought that, oh, this is going to be so easy. We have the text, we have the images, we've done this before. All we need to do is stick it in the system and we're done. But actually, we were completely wrong, and what followed was a very long and honestly quite painful at times editing process. The text needed to be easy to read and follow, balancing giving enough interesting information without compromising that user experience at the end of it. And this is really where all of the partners that we eventually became involved in this project really became way more heavily involved. We decided that to ensure that balance, we would provide shorter descriptions on the tour itself and link out to external content. That way, customers could read more if they wanted to, and it also meant that we could reflect lots of different perspectives and voices within the tour, so it wasn't just our own voices coming through in that content as well.
So one thing that we were really aware of is that our collection very much represents the perspective of European settlers to Christchurch, which would be similar with most local government archive collections. So the original walking tour did include content regarding pre-European settlements, such as the site of the Puri Pa, and that had been provided by Christchurch City Libraries Māori Services team. But for the digital version of the walking tour, we were also developing a new collaborative connections with the team at Ngāi Tahu Archives, and they had provided some awesome additional feedback and links to their own content that we were able to include. And so this included links to their wonderful resource, Kahuru Manu, which is their Atlas of Māori place names and people across Te Waipounamu, the South Island. If you haven't seen this, we'd highly recommend taking a look. We also partnered with the Christchurch Archaeology Project to add another dimension to the stories. The Christchurch Archaeology Project was involved in a huge number of archaeological digs after the Christchurch earthquakes of 2010-2011. They've got this incredible collection of artefacts. Catherine Watson from Christchurch Archaeology Project is actually speaking tomorrow, so we would really highly recommend that. She's wonderful. And so we added images of some of those artefacts related to the sites on our walking tour and just created a link out to their own content, including the Museum of Archaeology, which is another wonderful resource I highly recommend. It's worth noting that the only specific funding we got for this project was through our great colleagues at Smart Christchurch. They gave us $250. Which we hired a performing arts student from our local Polytech Ara, and he played the part of the Inspector of Nuisance and other early residents, some of those stories that are really found within those early council reports. And so we've got sound clips embedded into the walking tour, and it really helped add some life to that written content that had remained hidden for so long in our archives. So all of these partnerships, they provided both different perspectives and also helped to make the content of the tour that much richer. We've been able to promote their resources, which we've been so happy to do, and it's also really strengthened our partnerships within our community.
Awesome. So to access the final tour, all you need to do is scan the QR code, or you can access the tour from our website. Annabel has handed out a few bookmarks that are scattered around. Sorry, we didn't have enough for everybody. But yeah, feel free to go to the QR code or our website. I'm not going to do a live demo, so feel free to access the tour as I'm kind of talking about various bits as well. So the tour itself takes about 1 hour and covers 2 kilometres of fully accessible pedestrian area in the centre of Otautahi, Christchurch. We planned the route so that if you have limited mobility, so if you're using a wheelchair or pushing a pram, you can complete that full tour without any problems with access at all. There's also lots of stops along the way as well. Lots of bars and cafes, if you want to break it up that way. The route is also digitally accessible, so the route has been designed to follow the coverage of the Christchurch free Wi-Fi network. So although you will need access to a device, you don't need to use your own data to be able to get the full experience as well. If you're accessing it on your mobile device, there's also a location feature. So as customers physically follow the route, you can track where you are in relation to the stops. And we've also tried to put some instructions across there to support navigation as well. So you actually don't need to know Christchurch to do the tour. So we try to make it accessible both to visitors as well as residents as well. Customers can do the tour at their own pace and do as little or as much of the route as they like. So we've used photographs and content from our own council archives, as well as the digital collection of Christchurch City Libraries. And they are threaded throughout that tour, as well as links to all that amazing content that our partners have created that Annabel mentioned. Along some of those stops is that audio content, which brings to life some of those stories, and you can see those are kind of that little sound clip bit at the bottom there as well. So we officially launched this tour in September last year, and that actually coincided with us attending the Christchurch Innovation Expo. And we actually had a stand at the Innovation Expo, and that was 2 full-on days of connecting with people. We spoke to over 350 people on that day. When I say speak to, that was like full conversations with people. We were absolutely exhausted by the end of that. So you can see on here as well, we've actually got a travelling pull-up banner exhibition featuring some of those tour highlights. And that pull-up banner tour has been to Turanga, the Central Library in Christchurch, and other spots. And we're at the moment thinking about where we can send it to next to continue that promotion. All those bookmarks with the QR code are available in locations right the way across the city as well. So the total cost of that project was only $1,000, which was pretty much the cost of the pull-up banners and the bookmark printing. Everything else was done completely through collaboration and using those tools that we already had. So that is really the value of that collaboration. So since that tour launched in September, we've had over 3,500 visits to the tour landing page. And at this point, we say we actually can't track that impact in any further depth in terms of statistics. But we've been overwhelmed by how positively this tour has been received by everybody that we've spoken to. And we are actually continuing to use it as our main tool for raising awareness of the collection. So Annabel said before about this being a hidden collection. So we don't actually need everyone to do the tour to kind of get that awareness out there. People need to just do a bit of it, understand a little bit of the history, understand a little bit about the collection to get some impact from it. And to know that we exist as well, which is a big thing for us. So this project has won 2 awards at the end of 2024, and it's at this point when I'm not sure having our face on 3 screens is a little intense, so sorry about that. I didn't expect 3 screens, I thought 1 screen would be enough, but yeah, 3 times is a lot. So we won the Christchurch City Council Team Excellence Award and the ALGIM Customer Experience Project of the Year Award for this. And they've been fantastic platforms for us to expand awareness of the work we do. So just to summarise some of the key takeaways from this project as well, and sorry our faces are staying up there for a little while. Almost everyone we have spoken to loved the idea of the walk being self-guided and digital, particularly when we spoke to younger people and families. I would say although a very small amount of people say they would like a physical guide or a printed map, most people love the idea of just being able to follow something on their phone, as it really does relate to how most of us are starting to interact with the world around us anyway. This tour tells some of those stories that are not commonly covered through other heritage tours, such as public health and sanitation, because who doesn't love a good cesspool story, you know? But actually people have been surprised at how dirty the city was, especially in those early years. And it really is about regular people, and it actually is very easy for people to see themselves in some of the stories that are being told. And more people are interested in heritage than you actually might think. And I think we often have very traditional ideas of the people that are interested by default in our collections. And it was really interesting to be able to go to the Innovation Expo and see that wider audience and see how interested people are. And I was really surprised at how many people, when we went to that Innovation Expo, said that we were their favourite stand. And that is really not bad, considering we were actually located next to a car with a rocket on the roof, and I have a photo of that just to prove that. So yeah, that was quite an achievement for us. So finally, providing an opportunity to get out and about and really experience history in relation to a physical space is actually really transformative, and the level of understanding people have about their city and their community.
So the tours really achieved that initial goal of increasing the visibility of the archives, both with our external and our internal customers. We actually had a total of 9 council teams that helped us, that were involved in this project and helped bring it to life. And lots of those people had never had any connection with the archives at all, or even knew that we existed. So we've really created some wonderful relationships. And it's lovely to have so many of our partners and people who helped along the project here. And we've got Andy from NZMS, of course, all our material that's digitised is always done via NZMS as well. So we've got lots of more stories we want to tell and new ways we want to get our customers engaged with our collection. This walking tour we really see as just a beginning, but we are always now going to look again at who we can partner with to make that happen, and also all the new technologies that are available to help bring that history to life. So thank you very much. I am just going to say we have time for questions, but Sarah and I do need to dash to the airport. So if anybody, we won't be around afternoon tea, but if anyone wants to get in contact, please just email us. The address is up there. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Could you please give us a sneak peek into what your development plans are? Like, are you planning to do any other tours of different areas of the city or the area?
Yeah, there's a whole lot of things we'd love to do. As Sarah said, it's really time consuming. So this, and because there's only 2 of us, oh, there's Catherine. Oh, sorry. Christchurch Archaeology Project, Catherine down the back. Because there are only 2 of us, and we have a lot of collection management work to do. So we are sort of pausing right now, but we would love to do one based on the peninsula. Littleton is crying out for one, Akaroa is crying out for one. We have really been pushing ESRI, and anyone who's here from local government, you probably have ESRI even if you don't know about it. And like we say, it's free to use, it's very easy to use. StoryMaps is this wonderful thing, so we're very much encouraging other people within our council to use it. The art gallery is going to be using it shortly, and there's other projects that are going on in that space. We're doing promotion of our anniversary of our Christchurch Drainage Board is one of our next projects. But yeah, we have a long list. We just don't have enough time, we don't have enough people, and we certainly don't have enough money, and I'm sure most of you can relate.
I think that's a perfect segue for the next question, which was, does the budget include the software cost?
No, because there is no software cost. That's the joy of ESRI, because it's already been paid for by another team. It's already within council. That's how we did. That's why we won that award, because we did this whole thing for $1,000. Yeah, council loves us.
Okay, so what I'm hearing there is it's free but not free, so make friends.
Yeah, exactly.
And how are we going for time? I think we've got one more question we could do, which is, are there any features of the software that you wish it had? So things that are missing that you'd love to see?
I think I'd probably love to see, like with everything, just a little bit more customization, because you are kind of stuck with the themes that it gives you pretty much. So I think anything that would give you a little bit more flexibility on the look and feel would just elevate it a little bit more and change it up. But hey, you know, if I'm not paying for it and it does the job that it needs to for us, then yeah, I'm happy to take it as it is. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If we could please give Annabel and Sarah another round of applause. Thank you. Safe travels.